I pressed play on the small recorder in my hand. The courtroom went silent. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my ears. And then there it was. My husband's voice. The man I had shared my life with for more than 30 years. He was whispering, but clear enough for everyone to hear. She trusts us too much. The breaks, just make it look like an accident. Nobody will suspect a thing. Then came my son-in-law's voice. My daughter's husband. The man who once called me mom. It will be quick. And after she's gone, you and I will finally be free. She'll never know. Gasps filled the room. The judge's eyes grew wide. My husband buried his face in his hands, but it was too late. Everyone had heard. 4 years ago, my daughter died in what we thought was a car accident. I cried until my body felt empty. I thought it was fate. I thought it was just one of those things you could never explain. But what I didn't know was that it wasn't fate at all. And now the truth was out. My husband and my son-in-law, 2 men I trusted, were the ones who planned it. And worst of all, while she was still alive, they were already dreaming of a life together. I looked them straight in the eye as the courtroom broke into whispers. They thought they were clever. They thought I was just a broken old woman. But I had been waiting for this very moment. The gavel slammed down. The judge leaned forward, his voice sharp. This changes everything. And right there, in that packed courtroom, my world turned upside down for the second time. But let me not run too far ahead of myself. I should take you back to when this nightmare really began. Before I do, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old, speaking to you all the way from Ohio, USA. I am a grandmother, a mother, and until recently, I thought I was also a wife to a faithful husband. Before we go deeper into this story, I want you to do me a favor. Kindly subscribe, like this story, and click the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming chapters. And please tell me in the comments, where in the country are you watching from? I always love knowing where my family of listeners are joining me from. Now back to the story. My daughter's name was Emily. She was the brightest part of my life. When she smiled, her eyes lit up like sunshine after rain. She had married young, to a man named Richard, my son-in-law. At first, I was happy for them. They looked like a perfect couple. They laughed together, planned their future together, and held each other in that way that makes you believe in love again. But sometimes what looks perfect on the outside hides the darkest secrets inside. The accident happened one rainy night. Emily's car skidded off the road. At least, that was what the police said. They told me it was the weather, the slippery road. I remember standing in the rain, staring at the wreckage, my hands shaking so badly I couldn't even hold the umbrella. My baby girl gone. That night, something in me broke. I cried until I could barely breathe. I prayed, I screamed, I even begged God to take me instead. Richard, my son-in-law, cried too. He held me, comforted me, and I believed he was mourning with me. But as the years went by, things began to change. One evening, I noticed my husband and Richard talking in low voices in the kitchen. When I walked in, they went silent. Another time, I saw a message flash across my husband's phone. It was from Richard. The words made my blood run cold. She suspects nothing. Be careful. That was when I began to watch them. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe grief was making me see things that weren't there. But deep down my heart whispered, Margaret, something is wrong. I started writing things down. Every strange look. Every quiet conversation. Every time they disappeared together. And then one night, I hid a small recorder under the couch. What I captured nearly stopped my heart. That was the moment I knew the truth. But I couldn't run to the police yet. I had no proof strong enough. They would just say I was a grieving old woman making wild claims. So I waited. I planned. And I gathered more. Until finally I had enough. And that is how I ended up in court, pressing play in front of the judge and everyone else. But what happened after the judge spoke was something none of us expected. Because at that exact moment, the scream echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Everyone jumped to their feet as Richard, the same man who had laughed in my living room, the same man who had once called me mom, clutched his chest and fell to the ground. Somebody help! A woman shouted. The bailiff rushed forward. The judge stood up, his face pale. My husband froze in his chair, his mouth hanging open, his eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. I didn't move. I just stared. My body was stiff, my heart pounding in my throat. Part of me wanted to rush to Richard's side, but another part of me whispered, "Let him feel the weight of everything he has done." 2 paramedics rushed into the courtroom. They knelt beside him, checking for a pulse. I held my breath, waiting for their words. "He's alive," one of them said. "Weak pulse. We need to get him to the hospital immediately." The judge banged the gavel. "Court is adjourned. Everyone out now." Chaos filled the room as people whispered and pointed. Some looked at me with pity, others with shock, but all eyes seemed to burn holes into my skin. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling, and walked toward the door. My husband followed close behind me, his hand brushing mine as if seeking comfort. But I pulled away. I wanted nothing from him. Outside the courthouse, the cold air hit my face. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes. For a moment, I felt like the ground was spinning. I had spent years waiting for this day, for the truth to be heard. And just when I thought I had reached the end of my battle, a new storm had begun. "Margaret." My husband's voice cracked behind me. I turned to him. His face was pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Don't," I said sharply. My voice surprised even me. "Don't you dare speak to me. Not after what I just heard on that tape." His lips trembled. I never meant for it to go this far." "Go this far?" My voice rose, and people nearby turned to look. "You killed my daughter. You took her away from me. And you say it went too far." He opened his mouth again, but no words came out. For the first time in my life, I saw him look small, weak, like a man who had lost everything. And maybe he had. I walked away, leaving him standing there in the cold. That night, I sat alone in my living room. The silence was heavy, pressing down on my shoulders. My daughter's picture stared back at me from the mantelpiece. Her smile was frozen in time, a cruel reminder of what I had lost. "I did it, Emily," I whispered, my voice breaking. "They thought they were clever, but I caught them. The world knows now. They can't hide anymore." But even as I said the words, I felt no peace. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, like a knife twisting in my chest. Because nothing, no court case, no recording, no justice, could ever bring my daughter back. The phone rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I reached for it with shaky hands. "Mrs. Carter?" It was the hospital. "We're calling to let you know that your son-in-law, Richard, is stable for now. But we need you to come in. He has requested to see you. Alone." My heart dropped. Why would Richard, of all people, want to see me? What could he possibly say? For a moment, I thought about refusing. I thought about slamming the phone down and letting him rot in his hospital bed. But something inside me whispered, "Go. Hear what he has to say. The truth may not be finished yet." The next morning, I walked into the hospital. The smell of antiseptic filled my nose. Nurses bustled around me, their shoes squeaking on the polished floor. My stomach churned with every step. When I finally reached his room, I froze at the door. Richard lay there, pale and weak, tubes running into his arms. But when his eyes met mine, they were sharp, too sharp for a dying man. "Close the door," he rasped. I hesitated, then did as he asked. The click of the door shutting behind me made my skin crawl. "You wanted to see me," I said, my voice flat. A thin smile curled on his lips. "Yes. Because you don't know everything, Margaret. You think you've won, but you haven't. There's more. Much more." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" He coughed, then leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving mine. "The accident wasn't just me and your husband. There's someone else. Someone you would never suspect. And they're still out there." My knees went weak. I grabbed the chair beside his bed and sat down heavily. "What are you talking about?" "Who?" Richard's smile widened, cruel and mocking. "If I tell you, Margaret, your whole world will shatter again." Before I could press him further, the monitor beside his bed began to beep wildly. Nurses rushed in, pushing me aside. "Ma'am, you need to leave," one of them shouted. I stumbled back, my heart racing. And as the chaos filled the room, One question burned in my mind. Who else was involved in my daughter's death? The sound of the heart monitor screaming in Richard's hospital room still rang in my ears long after the nurses shoved me out. I stood in the hallway, shaking, as people rushed past me, their white coats and quick footsteps blurring together. My heart hammered in my chest. There's someone else. Someone you would never suspect. Those words dug deep into me like claws. I pressed my back against the cold wall, sliding down until I was sitting on the floor. My legs wouldn't carry me anymore. I buried my face in my hands. Oh God, who else? Who else could it be? Richard's voice replayed in my head like a broken record. I wanted to storm back into that room, grab him by the collar, and shake the truth out of him. But the doors had shut. The nurses were inside now, fighting to keep him alive. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, one of the doctors came out. His face gave nothing away. Mrs. Carter? I scrambled to my feet. Yes. Is he? He's stable again, the doctor said, adjusting his glasses. But his condition is fragile. We'll be keeping him under close observation. Can I see him? I asked desperately. The doctor shook his head. Not tonight. He needs rest. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow. The word felt like a lifetime away. What if tomorrow never came? What if Richard took his last breath tonight, carrying the secret of who else was involved to the grave? I went home with my mind spinning like a storm. Sleep refused to come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's face, her bright smile, her laughter, the way she hugged me when she was happy. Then I saw Richard and my husband whispering in dark corners, planning her end like she was nothing more than an obstacle in their path. And now someone else. But who? I thought of neighbors, friends, even family. I thought of people Emily had worked with, people she had gone to school with. None of it made sense. Why would anyone else want her dead? Morning came slowly. I dressed without eating, without even brushing my hair properly. I just needed answers. At the hospital, Richard was awake, though weaker than before. His face was pale, his lips cracked. But when he saw me, he smirked faintly, like he still held the upper hand. I sat down beside his bed. You said there was someone else. Tell me who. He coughed, his body shaking. Patience, Margaret. You'll find out soon enough. Don't play games with me, I snapped, my voice trembling. I lost my daughter because of you. I've waited 4 years for justice. Don't you dare keep this from me. His eyes narrowed. You think you're ready for the truth? You're not. The truth will destroy you. I've already been destroyed, I whispered. For a long moment, silence hung between us. I thought he might finally give me a name, but instead he closed his eyes, shutting me out completely. I leaned back, frustrated, anger boiling inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him until he broke. But I couldn't. Not yet. As I left the hospital, I spotted my husband standing near the entrance. He was smoking a cigarette, something he hadn't done in years. His hands shook as he brought it to his lips. When his eyes met mine, he quickly looked away. Why are you here? I asked coldly. To see Richard, he muttered, not meeting my gaze. I stepped closer. You two destroyed my daughter. Don't pretend you care about him now. His jaw tightened. You don't understand, Margaret. Then make me understand. I snapped. My voice echoed, drawing a few stares from people passing by. He crushed the cigarette under his shoe. There are things you don't know. Things that, if you knew them, you'd wish you hadn't. My blood ran cold. It was almost the same thing Richard had said. What are you talking about? I demanded. But he just walked away, disappearing into the parking lot, leaving me standing there with my heart pounding. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about their words. The truth will destroy you. You don't understand. Things you don't know. I began to wonder. Had my whole life been a lie? I went through old boxes in the attic, pulling out letters, photographs, anything that might give me answers. Dust clung to my fingers, the air thick with memories. I found Emily's journals, her high school yearbooks, even some of her letters from college. At first, nothing stood out. But then, buried beneath a stack of old holiday cards, I found a letter. It was addressed to me but had never been opened. The handwriting was Emily's. My heart thudded as I tore it open with trembling hands. Inside, her words were shaky, hurried. Mom, if anything ever happens to me, don't trust them. Please don't. There are things I've found out. Things I can't tell you yet. But I know they won't stop until I'm gone. If I don't make it, know that I love you. And please keep looking for the truth. The letter slipped from my hands, fluttering to the floor. I gasped, clutching my chest. Emily had known. She had suspected something. Maybe even more than I realized. Tears blurred my vision. I picked up the letter and held it to my heart. My baby girl had tried to warn me. She had left me a message from beyond the grave. Suddenly, the phone rang, making me jump. I grabbed it quickly. It was the hospital again. Mrs. Carter, you need to come at once. Richard is demanding to see you. He says it's urgent. I rushed out of the house, clutching Emily's letter in my purse. My heart raced the whole drive. Every red light feeling like an eternity. When I got to the hospital, Richard was more awake than before, though still weak. He looked at me with a strange intensity. You found it, didn't you? He rasped. My breath caught. What are you talking about? He chuckled weakly. The letter. Emily's letter. I told her too much. She was getting close. That's why, he trailed off, coughing violently. That's why what? I pressed, leaning closer. That's why we had to act, he whispered. But it wasn't just us, Margaret. Your husband and I, we weren't the ones who started it. We were just following orders. My blood turned to ice. Orders? From who? His lips curved into a faint, sinister smile. Ask yourself. Who benefited the most from Emily's death? Who had everything to gain? That's your answer. Before I could push him further, the machines began to beep again. Nurses rushed in shouting orders. One of them grabbed my arm. Ma'am, you need to step out now. I stumbled backward, the words spinning in my head. Who benefited the most from Emily's death? As I stood in the hallway, my hands trembling, one name surfaced in my mind. A name I had never wanted to suspect. My own sister. Because after Emily's death, it was my sister who moved into our home, who comforted my husband, who somehow managed to slip deeper into my life while I was drowning in grief. And suddenly it all made sense. The laughter behind closed doors. The secret of conversations. The way she had insisted on handling certain arrangements after the funeral. Could it be her? The thought sent a shiver through me so strong I nearly collapsed. I clutched Emily's letter tightly, whispering through my tears, "Oh God, please don't let it be true." But deep down I knew. The next chapter of this nightmare had only just begun. And if Richard was telling the truth, then the betrayal was even deeper than I had ever imagined. I sat in my car outside the hospital, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind screamed one name over and over, my sister Helen. Could she really have been the one pulling the strings? Memories rushed back. Helen moving into my house after Emily's death, insisting she was there to help. The way she comforted my husband, cooking for him, laughing with him, sometimes even holding his hand when she thought I wasn't looking. At the time, I told myself grief made people cling together. But now, every moment felt like poison in my veins. I drove to her house, rage and fear fighting inside me. When she opened the door, her smile was too sweet, too practiced. "Sister," she said warmly, "I was just thinking about you." I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. "Helen," I said, my voice shaking, "what did you do to Emily?" Her smile didn't fade. If anything, it grew colder. "Careful, Margaret," she whispered, leaning close. "You don't want to dig too deep. Some graves are better left closed." And then she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of Emily, alive, standing beside Helen, 2 weeks after the so-called accident. The photograph trembled in my hands as though it carried a heartbeat of its own. My eyes locked on the image. Emily, my Emily, standing beside my sister Helen. Her smile was faint, her body thin, but she was there. Alive, I gasped, clutching the picture to my chest. This isn't possible. Emily died. I buried her. I saw the wreck. Helen's cold smile didn't waver. Did you? Or did you see what they wanted you to see? Her words cut through me like a knife. My knees weakened, and I gripped the edge of her table to steady myself. My mind swirled with questions that tangled together until they became unbearable noise. "You're lying," I whispered. "You forged this." You're trying to twist me against myself. Helen tilted her head, her eyes gleaming like a cat's in the dark. Am I? Look closely, Margaret. That photo was taken 2 weeks after the accident. Check the date on the back. With trembling fingers, I flipped the photograph. There it was, scribbled in Emily's handwriting. March 18th. 2 weeks after the night I lost her. The room spun. My chest tightened. No. This can't be true. Helen leaned closer, her perfume cloying, suffocating. Oh, it's very true. Your daughter's story didn't end the way you thought. And if you want to know the rest, you'll need to be brave enough to keep digging. Are you brave, Margaret? I glared at her, though my insides quaked. Where is she? If Emily is alive, then where is she? Helen chuckled softly, a sound that made my skin crawl. That's the question you should have asked 4 years ago. But you were too busy drowning in tears to see the truth. I slapped the photograph down on the table. Tell me where she is. For the first time, Helen's smile faltered. Her eyes darkened, her voice dropped to a low hiss. Be careful, sister. Some truths will not only shatter you but bury you. If you push too hard, you may find Emily. But you might not survive it. I stormed out before my rage boiled over. Outside, the cool night air hit me like a slap. My hand shook as I slid into my car, the photograph still burning in my pocket. My heart screamed at me to drive to the police station, but my mind whispered, what if Helen is telling the truth? What if Emily is alive? The police will bury this photo as another trick, another delusion of a grieving mother. I drove home in silence, my headlights carving a lonely path through the darkness. The house was still when I entered, but I could feel the ghost of Emily in every corner. I laid the photograph on the table and stared at it until my vision blurred with tears. Emily, are you out there? Did I fail you twice? Once by not protecting you, and again by believing you were gone. Sleep was impossible that night. I kept hearing Richard's words. We were following orders. And now Helen's. Emily didn't die the way you thought. By morning I made a decision. I would go back to Helen's house, demand answers, and refuse to leave until she gave me the truth. When I arrived, her front door was wide open. My stomach dropped. Helen! I called out, stepping inside cautiously. The air smelled of coffee and something bitter, almost metallic. The curtains were drawn, leaving the house dim and unsettling. I found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a cup of tea, as calm as though she had been waiting for me. You came back, she said softly. I slammed the photograph onto the table. No more games. Where is Emily? Helen swirled her tea lazily. You really want to know? Yes, she sighed, leaning back. Fine. But once you hear it, there's no going back. I folded my arms. Try me. Her eyes bore into mine, sharp and unrelenting. Emily didn't die in that car. She was pulled out before the wreck was staged. They made you believe she was gone because it was easier that way. Easier for them and easier for her. My voice cracked. Easier for her? What does that mean? Helen's gaze softened, almost pitying. Emily knew too much, Margaret. She found out things she shouldn't have. Things about Richard, about your husband, and about me. She chose to disappear, to save herself. I staggered back. My throat was dry, my words barely a whisper. You're saying she faked her death? Helen nodded slowly. But not by choice. She was forced into hiding. If she hadn't, she'd be truly dead by now. My knees buckled, and I sank into a chair. Why didn't she come to me? Why didn't she trust me? Because she knew, Helen said coldly, that if you knew, you'd be their next target. Her words stabbed deeper than any knife. My daughter had been alive all these years, hiding, suffering, because of people I once trusted. I grabbed Helen's wrist. Where is she now? Tell me. Helen's lips curled into a small, cruel smile. That's the part one can't tell you. Not yet. If you push too far, you'll only lead them straight to her. And then it will all be for nothing. I wanted to scream, to shake her until the truth spilled out. But a shadow crossed the window outside, making both of us freeze. Someone was watching the house. Helen's expression shifted instantly from mocking to terrified. She grabbed my hand. They followed you here. You fool. Do you know what you've done? My heart raced. Who? Who's out there? Before she could answer, The sound of glass shattering rang through the house. The front door burst open, and heavy footsteps thundered inside. Helen shoved me toward the back door. "Run, Margaret. Now." But I stood frozen, my legs refusing to obey. 3 masked men stormed into the kitchen, their faces hidden, their movements sharp and practiced. One of them pointed directly at me. "There she is. Grab her." My scream caught in my throat. Helen stepped in front of me, her voice shaking. "You said you only wanted her scared, not dead." The man ignored her. His hand reached into his coat, pulling out something metallic that glinted under the dim light. I stumbled backward, my heart hammering so hard it felt like it might burst. And in that moment I knew. This was no longer just about uncovering the truth. This was about survival. The metallic flash from the masked man's hand froze my blood. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a gun. "Grab her," he barked again. Helen shoved me hard toward the back door. "Run, Margaret." My legs finally obeyed. I stumbled through the kitchen, crashing into a chair, nearly falling. The sound of boots pounded behind me. I threw open the back door, the cold air slicing across my face. Before I could take another step, a strong hand clamped down on my arm. I screamed, thrashing, but the grip tightened like iron.
"Su Den Lee, bang."
The gunshot echoed through the house. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't tell if the bullet had hit me. My ears rang, my chest burned with terror. Then I turned. Helen stood in the doorway, blood blooming across her shoulder. Her face was pale, but her eyes blazed with fury. "Go!" she shouted at me. "Don't stop." The man who held me faltered, distracted by the shot. I wrenched free, running into the night, my heart pounding like a drum. Behind me, chaos exploded, shouts, another gunshot, glass shattering. But I didn't look back. I ran until my lungs felt like they were tearing apart, until my legs nearly gave way beneath me. And then in the darkness ahead, headlights flicked on. A car engine roared to life, its beams blinding me. The vehicle sped straight toward me. The blinding headlights seared my eyes, erasing the world into a wash of white and shadow. My body froze like prey caught in the open. The roar of the engine grew louder, closer, swallowing the pounding of my heart. "Move, Margaret," my mind screamed. But my legs felt anchored in fear. At the very last second, instinct broke through. I threw myself sideways, crashing hard into the ditch by the roadside. The car swerved, tires screeching against asphalt, before roaring past and disappearing into the night. Mud smeared across my face and arms as I struggled to breathe. My chest burned, my body trembled, and I could still hear the echo of that engine in my skull. Whoever was inside that car, they wanted me gone. I scrambled up from the ditch, clutching my aching ribs. My only thought was to put as much distance as possible between me and Helen's neighborhood. The night was deadly quiet, except for the distant barking of dogs. My shoes slapped against the pavement as I kept running, every shadow looking like another masked man waiting to pounce. After what felt like forever, I spotted a small gas station ahead, its flickering neon sign glowing like salvation. I staggered inside, earning a suspicious glare from the night clerk. My hair was wild, my clothes muddy, and my breathing ragged. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked cautiously. I need to use your phone," I gasped. My cell phone had been left in Helen's house during the attack. The clerk pointed to the corner, and I grabbed the payphone, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the receiver. I dialed the only number I could trust, Detective Harris, the officer who had once investigated Emily's accident. When his groggy voice answered, I blurted out, "They tried to kill me. At Helen's house, masked men, guns, please, you have to help me." There was silence for a beat. Then his tone sharpened. "Stay where you are. Don't move. I'm sending someone right now." I nodded, though he couldn't see me, tears stinging my eyes. For the first time that night, I felt a shred of hope. But then, just as I hung up the receiver, I saw it. Through the dusty glass of the gas station window. The same car that had tried to run me down pulled into the parking lot. The engine cut off. The headlights dimmed. My heart dropped. I darted toward the back of the store, whispering to the terrified clerk, "Don't tell them I'm here." He stared at me wide-eyed but gave a quick nod. The bell above the door jingled. Heavy footsteps entered. A man's voice, cold and deep, asked, You seen a woman come through here? About 50 years old. Muddy. Out of breath. The clerk's voice cracked. And no, sir. Silence. Then the man chuckled. Funny. Because I saw her come in. The sound of boots scraped across the floor, closer and closer to where I crouched. My body tensed. I scanned the shelves around me, desperate for anything I could use as a weapon. My hand closed around a heavy glass bottle of soda. The man's shadow loomed against the aisle. He turned the corner, and I swung with all my strength. The bottle smashed against his head, exploding into shards and fizz. He roared, stumbling backward, clutching his skull. I bolted. The back door flew open as I shoved it with my shoulder, bursting into the cold night air. My lungs screamed for air as I ran, my ears filled with the man's furious shouts behind me. Gravel crunched under my feet. My body was weak, but adrenaline carried me. I dashed toward a cluster of abandoned buildings behind the gas station, ducking into the shadows. For a few minutes there was nothing but silence. I crouched low, pressing my hand against my pounding chest. I prayed Detective Harris would arrive before those men found me again. But then my phone vibrated. My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten it was still in my pocket after all. I pulled it out with shaking hands. The screen lit up with a single message. From unknown number. It read, "You were never supposed to find out about Emily. Go home, Margaret. Or you'll end up like her." My knees buckled and I dropped the phone into the dirt. The night closed in on me, heavy and suffocating. I thought of Emily, my sweet girl, her smile, her laugh. They had silenced her. And now they wanted to silence me. But I wasn't going to stop. Not now. I stood, wiping the tears from my face. My fear turned to fire. Whoever was behind this, my husband, my son-in-law, even Helen, they were going to regret underestimating me. Suddenly, flashing red and blue lights lit up the street in the distance. Police sirens wailed, cutting through the silence. Relief washed over me. Detective Harris had come. I ran toward the lights, waving my arms. Here. I'm here. The squad car screeched to a halt. 2 officers jumped out. But when the driver's door opened, it wasn't Harris who stepped out. It was my husband. The red and blue lights flickered across his face, but there was no mistaking him. My husband, Robert, stood there in a crisp police uniform. His lips curled into a smile that chilled me to my core. "Hello, Margaret," he said calmly, as if we were meeting at a dinner table instead of in the middle of the night after I'd just escaped an ambush. My throat went dry. "Robert, what are you doing here? Where's Detective Harris?" He chuckled. "Oh, Harris is busy. Let's just say he won't be coming tonight." His words hung heavy in the air, the implication clear. The second officer stepped forward, his face hidden under a cap. He carried a pair of handcuffs, dangling them like a promise. "You've been making a lot of noise," Robert continued, his tone low and venomous. "Asking too many questions. Running where you shouldn't. You should have just grieved like a proper widow." My body trembled, but anger pushed through my fear. "You killed her, didn't you?" I whispered. "You killed Emily. You, Anne." "Enough." His voice cracked like a whip. For a moment, the mask of calm slipped, and I saw the monster underneath. He took a step closer. I stumbled backward, my heel hitting gravel. The second officer reached for me, but I twisted away, my heart pounding like a drum. "Stop running, Margaret," Robert warned. "You're only making this harder on yourself." I glanced around desperately. Dark street, empty buildings, nowhere to run. My chest heaved. My mind screamed for escape. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A small body cam clipped to Robert's fake uniform, its red light blinking. He didn't know it was on. I gasped, realizing what this could mean. If I could get to that camera, I might finally have proof of everything. But before I could move, Robert lunged at me, his hands closing around my throat. His hands tightened around my throat like steel clamps, cutting off my air. My nails clawed at his arms, but he didn't flinch. His eyes burned with rage. The face of the man I once trusted now twisted into something cruel and unrecognizable. "You should have stayed quiet, Margaret," Robert hissed. "Emily's gone. You should have let it end there." My vision blurred. The edges of the world darkened. I gasped, but no sound came. My body flailed, my knees buckling under his weight. Then through the haze I saw it again, that tiny red light on the body cam, blinking steadily. Recording. Witnessing everything. With the last bit of strength left in me, I raised my knee and drove it hard into his stomach. He grunted, the pressure on my throat loosening for a split second. I twisted away, collapsing onto the gravel, choking and coughing. "Get back here," he roared, lunging for me again. I scrambled to my feet, grabbing at his chest. My fingers closed around the body cam. He swung his fist, striking me across the cheek, but I held on, tearing the device free. The other officer shouted, "She's got it." I stumbled backward, clutching the cam like it was my last breath of air. This is proof," I wheezed. My voice was hoarse, but filled with fire. "The world will finally see what you've done." Robert's face drained of color. For the first time that night, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Then headlights swept across us. A real squad car screeched to a stop at the end of the street. Doors slammed. Flashlights and voices cut through the chaos. "Police! Drop your weapons!" Robert cursed under his breath, grabbing my wrist with bruising force. "If I go down, Margaret," he snarled, "you're going with me." He yanked me toward the woods at the edge of the road, dragging me like a rag doll. My lungs screamed, my body fought, but his grip was unyielding. Behind us, real officers shouted, "Freeze! Stop right there!" Boots thundered against the ground. And then bang! A gunshot split the night. Robert staggered, but he didn't fall. His grip only tightened as he pulled me deeper into the darkness, his breath ragged and wild. "Run all you want," he growled in my ear. "But you'll never escape me." The trees swallowed us whole as Robert dragged me into the woods, his grip on my wrist a vice that cut off circulation. My breath came in sharp, ragged bursts. The ground was uneven, roots and rocks clawing at my shoes. Behind us, flashlights cut across the darkness, officers shouting commands. "Stop. Drop the woman." Robert ignored them, pulling harder, his voice a low growl. "Don't you see, Margaret? They'll never protect you. They're part of this, all of them. The only way you walk out alive is with me." I stumbled, crashing to my knees, but he yanked me back to my feet. The body cam dug into my palm, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. Proof. That's all I had left between life and death. Branches whipped across my face as he dragged me deeper. The sounds of the officers grew distant, swallowed by the forest. My chest tightened. What if no one ever found me again? What if this was where I ended? Buried in shadows, silenced like Emily. But fear turned to fire. I twisted sharply, slamming my elbow into his ribs. He grunted, stumbling. I tore free and bolted, branches snapping beneath my feet. My lungs screamed, but I didn't stop. Behind me, Robert's voice echoed through the trees. "You can't run forever." I didn't care. I ran until my legs wobbled like jelly, until the cold air stabbed my lungs. Ahead, I spotted a small clearing, moonlight spilling across it. Salvation, or a trap? I burst into the open space, gasping for breath. My hands shook as I looked around for a weapon, a hiding spot, anything. The woods loomed in every direction, silent except for the crunch of footsteps behind me. Robert emerged, his face twisted with fury, sweat glistening on his brow. In his hand was a knife, its blade catching the moonlight. "You should have stayed my wife," he spat. "We could have had it all. But you had to dig. You had to ruin everything." My heart thundered. "You killed Emily," I whispered. The words were both accusation and truth. "You and James planned it." His eyes flickered. For a moment his mask slipped. Then he sneered. "And what if we did? She was weak. She was in the way. And you," he raised the knife. "You were too blind to stop it." Rage surged through me. "No," I said, standing taller despite my trembling legs. "You're the weak one, Robert. Hiding behind lies. Killing your own daughter-in-law. Betraying me." He lunged. I dodged, the blade slicing my sleeve. Pain nicked my arm, hot and sharp, but I clutched the body cam tighter. Then a sound split the night. "Margaret!" I spun. From the trees, Detective Harris stumbled into the clearing, his gun raised. His face was streaked with dirt, his uniform torn, but his eyes were sharp. Relief flooded me. "Harris!" I cried. Drop the knife, Robert, the detective commanded, his voice steady. It's over. Robert snarled. You think you can stop me? She's mine. He yanked me against him, pressing the blade to my throat. Harris's finger tightened on the trigger. Don't do this. Let her go. For a moment the world froze. The knife cold against my skin, Robert's breath hot in my ear, Harris's gun unwavering. And then another voice. Shoot him, Harris. End it. From the darkness a figure stepped forward. My blood ran cold. It was James, my son-in-law. His face was pale, his smile cruel. In his hand he held another gun, pointed directly at the detective. James. My voice cracked. You're here too. He grinned. Of course. Did you really think Robert planned this alone? We've been in it together since the beginning. My knees weakened. Emily's face flashed in my mind, her laughter, her warmth, and now the truth of her betrayal. Her husband, her father-in-law. Murderers both. Harris's gun shifted slightly, caught between two enemies. Drop it, James, he warned. James laughed. You don't get it, do you? Emily's death was just the start. Margaret was supposed to follow. Tonight we finally finished the job. The forest seemed to close in around us. My pulse roared in my ears. Robert's grip tightened on my throat. James's gun glinted in the moonlight. Harris's eyes flickered with calculation. The body cam throbbed in my palm, recording every damning word. I knew then, I couldn't let them silence me. Not here. Not now. Emily deserved better. I choked out, my voice trembling but strong. She deserved life, love, justice. And you too? I turned my head slightly, meeting Robert's eyes. You'll burn for what you did. Robert's face twisted with rage. He raised the knife higher. Bang! A single gunshot cracked the night. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Robert collapsed, blood spreading across his shirt. His knife clattered to the ground. I gasped, stumbling free, clutching my bruised throat. My eyes darted to Harris. The gun in his hand smoked. But James was still standing, still smiling. That was your mistake, detective, he said coldly. Now it's just you, her, and me. And before Harris could react, James fired. The detective staggered, blood blooming across his chest. He fell to his knees, gasping, then crumpled onto the ground. No! I screamed. My legs buckled beneath me, the world spinning. James stepped closer, his gun trained on me, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Looks like it's just us now, Margaret. The gun glinted in the moonlight, steady in James's hand. His smile was cold, triumphant, like a predator savoring the final kill. You've made this far too difficult, Margaret, he said smoothly. I wanted it to be quick, clean, but you just couldn't stop digging. I pressed my back against a tree, clutching the body cam so tight it cut into my palm. Harris lay motionless a few feet away, his chest rising shallowly, each breath a battle. I wanted to crawl to him to help, but one wrong move and James would fire. You murdered Emily, I whispered, my voice hoarse from Robert's grip. Your own wife. The woman who trusted you. James tilted his head, almost amused. Emily was weak, always questioning me, always doubting. She had to go. And Robert, he glanced at the lifeless body of his father-in-law. He understood that. Tears stung my eyes, but beneath them burned fury. You'll never get away with this. Everything you've said, it's all on here. I lifted the body cam slightly, its red light still blinking. Proof. Evidence. For the first time, his smile faltered. His gun hand twitched. Give it to me. I shook my head, my heart hammering. No. His eyes darkened. Then I'll take it from your dead hands. He raised the gun. My mind raced. I couldn't outrun a bullet, but I could outthink him. Wait, I said quickly, forcing calm into my voice. If you shoot me now, the police will find this camera on my body. They'll know everything. James hesitated. His eyes flicked to the cam, then back to me. I saw the war in his mind, the hunger to kill me against the fear of exposure. I took a shaky step back, inching closer to the tree line. But if you let me go, maybe I disappear. Maybe the truth never gets out. For a moment, silence. His breathing slowed, his grip loosening just slightly. And then snap. A twig broke somewhere in the darkness. Both of us froze. From the shadows, another figure stepped forward. My heart stopped. It was Helen, my sister. She held a gun of her own, aimed directly at James. "Put it down," she said, her voice steady, "or I'll shoot." James laughed, raising his weapon higher. "You won't. You're as much a part of this as we are." Helen's eyes flicked to me. Something unreadable passed across her face. Then she pulled the trigger. The gunshot cracked through the forest, louder than thunder. For a moment everything froze, the trees, the night air, even my breath. My ears rang, my body trembled, and I didn't know if I was alive or dead. James staggered backward, clutching his arm. Blood seeped between his fingers as his gun fell into the dirt. His face twisted in shock and rage. "You!" he hissed, glaring at Helen. "You shot me." Helen didn't lower her weapon. Her hands were steady, her eyes cold. "Drop it, James. It's over." Relief flooded me so fast my knees nearly buckled. She hadn't betrayed me. Not this time. I glanced at Harris, who groaned weakly from where he lay. He was alive, but barely. We needed help and fast. But James wasn't done. He stumbled toward Helen, blood dripping from his arm, fury lighting up his face. "You think you can stop me? You're in this as deep as Robert was. If I go down, you go with me." Helen's jaw tightened. For the first time I saw cracks in her calm. Her gun wavered slightly, her breath quickened. And then she said something that chilled me. "He's right, Margaret. I am in this. Deeper than you'll ever know." My heart stopped. "What?" Helen's eyes darted to me, then back to James. "I tried to protect you, tried to keep you out of it. But you kept digging. And now," she exhaled, lowering her gun just a fraction, "now you've left me no choice." James's laughter rang out, wild and bitter. "I told you. She's not your savior, Margaret. She's your executioner." I stumbled back, clutching the body cam to my chest. My world spun. "Helen, you're lying. Tell me you're lying." Her eyes glistened, but her face was hard. "Emily's death wasn't an accident. I helped plan it. Robert gave the order, James carried it out. And I made sure you never asked the right questions." My chest caved in, a scream clawing at my throat. "No. No, you couldn't have. She was your niece. You loved her." Tears slid down her cheek. "I did love her. But she was going to ruin everything. She found out about the money. About Robert's debts. About James's affairs. She threatened to expose us all. So you killed her." I whispered, my voice cracking. Helen's silence was the answer. I felt the world tilt. My sister, my blood, had betrayed me deeper than anyone else. James staggered closer, clutching his bleeding arm. "So what now, Helen? You gonna kill her for real this time? Or are you finally ready to admit we need to clean up this mess together?" Helen's grip tightened on the gun. Her eyes flickered between me and James, her breath ragged. Then she raised her weapon again, this time pointing it at me. "Give me the body cam, Margaret," she said softly. "Please. Don't make me do this." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. The small device in my hand felt like the weight of the world. Proof. Justice. Emily's voice crying out from beyond the grave. I shook my head. "No. I won't let Emily's death be for nothing." Helen's lips quivered. "You don't understand. If that recording gets out, we all go down. Not just me, not just James. Everyone. People you care about will suffer. Families ruined. Lives destroyed." Her words cut deep, but I forced myself to look her in the eye. Better their lives than her justice buried forever. Better the truth than a lie. For the first time, Helen's hand shook. "I don't want to kill you, Margaret. You're my sister. And Emily was your niece," I shot back. "And you still killed her." Silence. Then movement. James lunged toward me, his injured arm outstretched. I screamed, darting back, the body cam slipping from my grip. It clattered to the ground between us. The red light blinking like a heartbeat. All three of us froze, eyes locked on it. James dropped to his knees, clutching for it with his good hand. Helen stepped forward, gun aimed at his head. And me, I dove low, fingers scraping the dirt as I reached for it. For a split second, the three of us collided, scrambling, pushing, clawing. The cam flew into the air. We all gasped as it landed with a splash in a shallow puddle, mud and water splattering everywhere. No! I cried, plunging my hands into the filthy water. I grabbed the cam, yanking it free. The red light flickered weakly, then steadied again. It was still recording. James roared, slamming into me. I fell backward, the device clutched to my chest. His hands wrapped around my wrists, squeezing until my bones ached. Helen shouted, "Stop, James!" But he didn't stop. He forced me down, his face inches from mine, spit flying as he snarled, "You'll never leave these woods alive." I kicked, fought, clawed, but he was too strong. The weight of his body crushed me, my lungs burning for air. Then, another gunshot. James's body jerked. His eyes went wide. For a moment, I thought Helen had finally chosen me. But when he slumped sideways, I saw the truth. Behind him, in the shadows of the trees, stood another figure, holding a smoking gun. My breath caught. It wasn't Helen. It was my son. For a moment, the world blurred. My son, my own flesh and blood, stood in the clearing, the gun still smoking in his trembling hands. His face was pale, his chest heaving, his eyes locked on James's lifeless body sprawled in the dirt. "David," my voice cracked. "What have you done?" He blinked at me, as if waking from a nightmare. The gun slipped slightly in his grasp, but he tightened his hold again. "I saved you, Mom. He was going to kill you." Helen lowered her weapon, staring at him with a strange mix of shock and fear. "David, how did you even find us?" David's jaw clenched. His eyes flicked toward her, then back to me. "I've been following you. All of you. Ever since I started noticing things that didn't add up. I knew something was wrong with Uncle Robert, with James. And then I heard Emily's name whispered one too many times." Tears welled in my eyes. My boy. My child. He had been carrying this weight alone. But Helen took a step closer, her voice sharp. "David, put the gun down. You don't know what you've stepped into." He swung the weapon toward her. Don't you dare. I know you're part of this. Emily's death wasn't an accident. You've been covering it up, haven't you?" Helen's face hardened. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," David snapped. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. "I heard Dad arguing with James weeks ago. Heard him mention Emily. And I knew he had something to do with it. That's why I followed you here tonight. I needed to see for myself." My heart twisted. Robert. My husband. My son had uncovered the truth that had nearly destroyed me. "David," I whispered, reaching a trembling hand toward him. "You don't have to do this. Give me the gun." His eyes softened when they met mine. "Mom, I can't. If I give this up, they'll kill us both. You don't understand. Dad's involved too. If he finds out I turned against him." He swallowed hard, the gun wavering. "He'll never forgive me. He'll destroy me, just like he destroyed Emily." The words hit me like a blow. My son wasn't just caught in the middle. He was trapped between his parents, torn by blood and betrayal. Helen stepped forward, her voice low, coaxing. "David, listen to me. You think you're protecting your mother, but all you're doing is digging your own grave. Your father won't spare you if he knows you've chosen her side." David's eyes darted between us, wild with confusion. Then what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to trust? Silence stretched, heavy as chains. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I saw Emily's spirit burning in his eyes. Fierce, defiant, unwilling to be silenced. "Trust yourself," I whispered. "And trust me. We can end this. Together." For a heartbeat, he hesitated. Then the gun dipped, just slightly. But before I could reach him, branches snapped in the distance. Voices. Footsteps. More people were coming. And I knew with a cold certainty that the nightmare wasn't over. The crunch of boots on dead leaves grew louder with every second. The glow of flashlights cut through the trees, sweeping across the clearing like searchlights hunting for prey. My breath caught in my throat. They were close, too close. "David, please," I whispered urgently, glancing at the gun trembling in his hands. "Give it to me. We don't have time." He looked torn, his jaw tight, his knuckles white against the weapon's grip. "Mom, if I give it up, I've got nothing. Dad will kill me. The footsteps drew nearer. Helen moved to his side, lowering her voice to a hiss. Listen to me, David. Your father is the one sending them. If you want to survive, you'll need me. He recoiled from her words. I don't need you. I don't trust you. Her eyes flashed with something sharp, dangerous. Then you're a fool. Because your mother isn't strong enough to protect you. She never has been. Anger surged inside me, hot and fierce. That's a lie, Helen. I protected both of my children all their lives. Emily died because of you and Robert, and James. Don't you dare put your poison in my son's head. Helen's smile was cold. Say what you want, Margaret, but truth always has a way of cutting through. The flashlight beams grew brighter. Shadows stretched across the clearing, and then I heard his voice. Robert. Deep, commanding, terrifying in its calm. Margaret. His voice thundered through the night. I know you're here. Enough games. Come out. David froze, his chest heaving. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. He was a boy again, afraid of his father's wrath. I stepped forward, instinct pulling me to shield him. Stay behind me, I whispered. The first of the men emerged, 3 of them, burly, dressed in black. Their eyes swept the clearing, weapons in hand. Behind them, stepping slowly into the pale moonlight, was Robert. His face was stone unreadable. But when his gaze landed on James's lifeless body, a flicker of irritation crossed his features. Not grief. Not horror. Irritation. You've made a mess, he said flatly, his eyes shifting to me. And now I have to clean it up. I squared my shoulders, heart racing. Emily, you killed our daughter. His eyes narrowed. Watch your words, Margaret. But David suddenly stepped forward, lifting the gun again. His voice shook, but the words rang clear. Stop lying, Dad. I know. I heard you and James. I heard you planning it. You wanted Emily gone. Robert's gaze snapped to him, cold and sharp as a blade. For a moment, silence. Then he chuckled, low and dark. My son, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. Always listening at doors. Always too curious for his own good. He took a step closer, the men at his sides shifting like wolves. And now you point a gun at your own father? David's arm shook violently, but he didn't lower the weapon. You don't deserve to be my father. The words made Robert's face harden. The mask of calm cracked, and beneath it, I saw the monster that had been hiding all these years. Helen edged closer to him. Robert, she said quickly, her voice urgent. He's just a boy. Don't waste your anger. Margaret is the one who's dangerous. She's been collecting evidence. She has a camera. I spun toward her, my stomach dropping. You traitor. Her eyes glittered with triumph. You think I'd ever let you destroy us? I've been protecting this family from the start. Robert's gaze shifted back to me, sharp and calculating. Camera. My hand flew instinctively to the body cam strapped beneath my jacket. His eyes caught the movement, and a cruel smile spread across his face. So that's what this is about. He motioned to one of his men. Take it from her. Panic surged. David! I cried, stepping back. The man lunged toward me, but before he could reach, David fired. The shot split the night, echoing through the trees. The man staggered back, clutching his shoulder, collapsing into the dirt. Everyone froze. Even Robert. Smoke curled from the barrel of the gun in David's hands. His face was pale, his body trembling violently, but his voice rang strong. Stay away from her. Robert's lips curled into something between fury and amusement. You've grown a spine, boy. Shame it won't save you. He raised his hand, and the other 2 men advanced. Adrenaline roared through my veins. I grabbed David's arm, pulling him behind me. My mind raced. 2 men, 1 gun, and nowhere to run. Helen, shockingly, lifted her own weapon again, stepping slightly in front of Robert. No, she said firmly. Not the boy. He's mine to protect. Robert's head snapped toward her, eyes narrowing. Yours? You've lost your mind. But she didn't flinch. Her gun stayed trained on his men. You want Margaret, fine. But David lives. The clearing buzzed with tension, every second stretching like a wire ready to snap. Robert's jaw tightened. Traitor, he hissed. You always were weak. Then chaos. The men lunged, Helen fired, David screamed, and I threw myself toward him. Bullets cracked through the air, splintering branches, tearing bark from trees. When the smoke cleared, one of Robert's men was down, the other clutching his leg. Helen stood breathing hard, her eyes wild, her gun empty. And Robert was gone. Slipped into the shadows, vanished like smoke on the wind. David collapsed to his knees, the gun falling from his hands. I rushed to him, pulling him into my arms. His body shook violently against mine. "It's over," I whispered, though my own voice trembled. "It's over." But deep down I knew it wasn't. Robert had escaped. And Robert never ran unless he was planning something worse. Helen dropped the empty gun, her face pale but resolute. She looked at me, her voice ragged. "You don't understand, Margaret. You think tonight was bad? He's just getting started. And next time he won't leave survivors." A chill ran down my spine. Because for the first time I believed her. The courtroom was silent, so silent I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Robert sat at the defense table, his face calm, unreadable, as though the blood he had spilled meant nothing. His lawyers surrounded him, sharp suits and colder hearts. I sat opposite, David's hand in mine, Helen a few seats away. For once she looked broken, hollow eyes, tired shoulders, as though the weight of her choices had finally crushed her. The judge's gavel cracked against wood. "Mrs. Margaret Lawson," he said, "you may present your evidence." I rose slowly, my knees trembling but my voice steady. "Your Honor, I have something the world needs to hear." From my purse I pulled out the body cam. The little red light blinked like a beating heart. With shaking hands I placed it on the evidence table. The recording began to play. First Robert's voice, low, commanding, then James's, smug, agreeing, and finally Helen's laughter, cold and sharp. Together, they plotted Emily's death as if she were nothing more than a piece to be moved off a board. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. David squeezed my hand, tears streaming down his face. The judge's expression hardened. When the recording ended, the silence was heavier than thunder. Robert leaned back in his chair, his mask finally cracking. His jaw tightened, his eyes darted toward me, burning with hatred. But there was no escape now. The judge slammed his gavel once more. "Robert Lawson, Helen Carter, you are hereby charged with conspiracy to commit murder, and the evidence is overwhelming. Bail denied." My knees nearly gave out with relief. For 4 years I had lived in the shadow of grief, betrayal, and fear. Now at last truth had spoken louder than their lies. As Robert was led away in handcuffs, he looked back at me, his lips curling into a venomous smile. "This isn't over," he hissed. But for the first time in years I didn't feel afraid. I stood taller, my son at my side, and said loud enough for him to hear, "Yes, Robert. It is.